If you're walking alone through the windswept beauty of northern England, you might think the isolated moorlands stretching endlessly around you are serene, majestic, even peaceful. Yet tucked away in the heart of Cumbria lies Dutton Moor, a hauntingly beautiful expanse wrapped in folklore and fear. There's a reason locals hesitate to tread there, even under the light of day. And no, it isn't just superstition. Welcome to the Nightside Archive. Tonight we unravel the chilling story of the sinister tale of Dutton Moor. It all begins in the winter of 1982, a year when frosts hung low, temperatures dipped, and the days seemed to barely break through the relentless darkness. At the edge of Dutton Moor stood a small village called Cotswile, where nothing ever really happened. Peaceful, quiet, ordinary. This was the soul of old England, where people left their doors unlocked and everyone knew each other, until the disappearances began. January brought the harshest storm Cotswile had seen in years. One fateful morning, a farmer named Harold Brandt assured his wife that he was heading out to tend to sick livestock on the far edge of the moor. Optimistic and with chores in mind, Harold kissed her on the cheek, but never came back. A search party searched Cotswile and the edges of Dutton Moor for weeks. Dogs barked and strained at their leashes, eager to lead their human companions somewhere, anywhere. But their handlers would later say the beasts seemed to hesitate ever so slightly when treading into the deepest parts of the moor. They were looking for something. They were certain of it. Yet nothing came up. No footprints, no discarded tools, not even a thread from Harold's coat. Harold Brandt had simply vanished. Weeks turned into months. The Brandts learned to cope, while Cotswile learned to speak more softly of the moor and keep their children closer. But in late March, something shattered their silence. A young woman, Sarah Evans, had taken an early morning walk through the outskirts of the moor. She wasn't local, but visiting family. When she didn't show up home by the afternoon, the search was immediate. By evening, they had her battered umbrella pinned against a tree by the wind. By morning, a grim discovery. On the edge of the moor lay Sarah's scarf, torn and bloodied. This was no accident. Her distraught relatives pleaded with investigators. Could it be a wild animal? A wolf? A predatory bird? Anything but a person? Such occurrences were so rare in small towns that the police investigators' only response was one of quiet, hesitant acknowledgement. What could they do? The answer wasn't forthcoming for years. From March through autumn, the moor fell quiet again, as if it were waiting. Some even grew bold enough to head into its expanse once more, though not alone. Then came late October, and young friends Gareth and Daniel sneaked into the moor before dusk, laughter bubbling between them as they dared each other further and further inwards. Only Gareth returned from that exploit, rattled, stammering, and refusing, or perhaps unable, to articulate what he'd seen. The boy ran home without his shoes and clutching a tuft of grass so tight, his knuckles were pale. When the police asked him directly, all he could whisper was this: "It's in the eyes." He'd say nothing else. Rescue efforts for Daniel carried on for days, halted only when torrential rain flooded the lower parts of the moor. About a week later, a local shepherd discovered what most feared: Daniel's barely recognizable body hidden in a ravine. The gossip swirled faster than the wind. Some swore it was a long-forgotten serial killer returning from obscurity for reasons too twisted to imagine. Others stuck to their belief of some ancient predators lurking in the isolated wild. Even more bizarrely, a few thought this was supernatural mischief, otherworldly beings punishing those who stayed too long in their domain. Police tightened their holds on their limited resources, arguing back and forth, and villagers hesitated to speak. Curiosity about the sinister reputation of the moor spread beyond Cumbria, luring thrill-seekers, self-proclaimed experts, and reporters alike. And yet, as each disappearance magnified those fears, Dutton Moor twisted all truths to suit its narrative. It offered only scraps the living could barely decipher, while leaving the bodies as cryptic warnings. 8 documented disappearances plagued Dutton Moor between 1982 and 1988. In most cases, there was no pattern, no usable timeline. Victims spanned backgrounds, aged 15 to 45, male and female, locals versus tourists. By 1990, tracks deliberately left by investigators failed to lure their presumed killer, or beast or force, whatever drove this chaos, into predictable movements. The hours grew longer for those who stayed to piece vast, weak evidence. Maps snaked along the precinct's attic, until even these authorities faltered in faith to derive reason. That fateful climax, however, still awaited the moor by 1991's July. Hikers clustered last tests along northwest ridges, grazing moor lines as forbidden entries. Tourist anomalies dared brave attention Duddon generally chased vocally away, rather hostile. Certain regions weren't cursed necessarily. Theoretically, therefore logically, investigations proved suggestively documenting scribbled signage rehearsals amid permanent peaked mysteries. Thus latest, settings attempts, cross-hunt lore versus living, decent promising reso, safe settings, barriers, jurisdictions. Though less muscular, they anticipated approach. Verified each human turned subsoil tested at perform unsure resanity, gradually considered familiar. Something stumbled, something ex-nears lightning, camping sudden burst, death dared forest fires, not expended. Objects, still luxury, near paths, dogs even. Must organize a mark growing more stride ravine aligned, maybe strong org pass aid. Final, twist knots gradual before oak.